Okay, so I only just found out about Spechie's death and rebrand as Speggy. I'm like 4 months late to the funeral, but gosh darn it, I have a eulogy and we're gonna go through it because I heckin' feel like it. Initially, I wasn't too interested in the whole thing, but I thought I might as well check in. You know, take a peek and see what went down while I was gone. And boy, let me tell you, I was not ready for this growth. Like, holy shit, girl, my baby, my sweetheart, I'm so proud of you. Alright. Let's back it up a second, let's bring the energy back down and talk properly. Because man, do I have some words. And I have to spew them to the internet lest I bottle them up inside me and explode at a later date on some poor unsuspecting friend that's never even heard of a Spechie before. And for the one person in the back that clicked on this video without even knowing what a Spechie is, you are valid and I will cater to you and explain what a Spechie is.
Just because I have no emotion in my voice doesn't mean I have no emotions. Just because I'll kick the shit out of you doesn't mean I'm an edgelord.
So, Spechie was a member of the animated storytime YouTubers from back in the day. I mean, technically they haven't gone anywhere, I think. Maybe. The precise day I'm talking about is the day when I knew what was actually going on in that scene, so the back in my day was specifically my day. It was probably like a Thursday. But how else are we gonna have a story about growing up and into ourselves if we were all perfect angels as youngins? So let's get into it. The context/history. Before we get into my thoughts and emotions surrounding Spechie and Speggy, as well as my concerns about her future going forward and the conclusion to the situation as a whole, I want to go over her history and the conversation surrounding her art and level of effort behind videos. Now look, I'm not going to get too deep into the drama side of things around Spechie. I'm just here to talk about my own reactions and feelings towards her in the now and the then. But I will give some context and history to her so we're all on the same page here. In the animated storytime community, Spechie was considered something of an outlier, in that her personality was more akin to a villain type when compared to the more traditional good-natured personalities of the other well-known animators. She wasn't alone in this boat, of course. She was joined by characters like Tabs, who I know next to nothing about, so we'll just put that there and leave it. And her stories focused on cornerstone topics that most creators in the community utilized. Think school, relationships, artist woes, embarrassing stories, mental strains, and personal opinion pieces on the evils of consumerism. You know, the usual. However, her approach was far more cynical and admittedly very spiteful. This character connected with a particular fan base that shared in her edgy content and attitude. And while this personality type certainly attracted a certain set of people, it also upset the commentary gods. And eventually, Spechie was staring down a metaphorical shitstorm of criticism. And in summary of that whole situation, she didn't take it very gracefully. Unfortunately, there were a few bad faith arguments sprinkled in with genuine helpful criticism, and as a result of this, coupled with her own stubbornness, the arguments suffered and fell on deaf ears for Spechie. In short, it was a hot mess, and it took a good long time for Spechie's defenses to drop enough to accept even a shred of genuine criticism. It all took a very long time, and the argument was quite a bloody affair. Many lives were lost. After the battle was mostly over and the dust had settled enough to the point that every second commentary YouTuber wasn't making a video on her, I basically dropped off following the drama entirely. Other things came up and Spechie didn't hold a particularly good standing in my mind, so I more or less forgot about the whole thing and moved on. I figured there was no point sticking around and watching content that left me in a bad mood, and I wasn't up to feeding my frustration when I didn't see a point in it or a light at the end of the tunnel. Clearly, I thought the commentators and Spechie had reached a stalemate and there was no reason to stick around when no one was gonna budge on any more points. I may have been a bit premature in my conclusion, to be honest. From my understanding of the months that followed, limited as it is now that she's deleted her backlog of Spechie videos almost entirely and I can't really look them over, she did improve her art and delivery in the coming videos. I've caught the occasional rumblings over her changing avatars and taking on board some criticism in passing, but I didn't really clue into Spechie again until after the timely death of her character. Her improved art/effort. I only want to touch on this point briefly as it was a talking point for many of her critics and not without good reason. Author's note, it's not brief. Personally, I high-key hated her lack of effort in early videos. I was resentful. There's no way around that. I was very, very salty. I am inherently a salty bitch, I'm sorry. And my attitude towards Spechie? I'm sorry, I'm gonna flip-flop between those two. And my attitude towards Spechie was definitely just as petty and bitter as her own attitude was presented in her videos. Funny how that works. My frustration came from a familiar place that I think a lot of people get trapped in: jealousy and confusion. Why were low-effort videos with such a sour personality at the center of them gaining such attention? Well, here's the kicker, my kiddos. Effort does not equal success. I am sorry, that is just how it works. This is a concept that extends far beyond Spechie, and I'm going to impart this little bit of wisdom onto you. Not to crush your dreams, but to give you some perspective. Maybe some comfort if you're a small creator struggling to be seen. Fame, followers, validation, and sweet, sweet serotonin is unfortunately not guaranteed by skill, talent, or even effort. I'm not going to make this into a video essay, but I would recommend looking at CreepShow's coverage of the artist that up and ruined his life because he made the mistake of thinking he deserved followers over another artist. Or, if you prefer something more analytical, Cold Crash Pictures made a video rant essay thing on the rise and grind culture of the movie industry. The fact that grinding won't guarantee success and everything is a horrifically fickle mix of luck, connection, privilege, and the planet's fucking alignment is both depressing and actually kind of comforting. It's a topic that I wouldn't mind diving deeper into myself later, but for now I'll keep it to this one simple piece of advice. Jealousy is a wasted emotion. The only outcome is poisoning yourself, and if you open your mouth and let that poison come dribbling out, all you've done is left the world a little less bright and yourself feeling no better for it. But, having said that, spite can be one hell of a motivator, so harness the poison and turn it into motivation. Anyway, back to Spechie. I was very much drinking the poison when I watched her videos back in the day, and I won't shy away from how much that was not the move. Fortunately, I didn't share that poison with Spechie or show it off to the rest of the world. I just stewed away in my den and kept my judgmental tiny dick energy thoughts to myself. Now, with all that out in the open, there is something to be said about Spechie's output and effort and the effect it could have had on her in the long term. I remember going through a newer video of hers after some of the drama had gone down and going in to see how many actual different frames there were in the video, and I was genuinely appalled to see that most of the variations she used were stock photos. I felt like she hadn't taken on board any of the criticism and it just wasn't working for me. Although I will say I wasn't around for the videos where she changed her avatar to the short hairstyle, so I can't speak to the quality change there. And a quick aside, very quick aside kids, she never really animated her videos. Not in full anyway, there are a few blink animations in there. But I don't really care about that. I don't think she's obligated to fully animate anything. And I also disagree with Darth Pena's animation comparison. His version has the hand movement being a bit cleaner with the speed and weighting improved, but generally speaking, Spechie's looks more aesthetically pleasing, which is insanely important to animation, by the way. She just needs to work on the frame speeds and maybe touch up a few things here and there and it would look way better. Rip to Darth, I respect the hell out of most of his stuff, but this one point here is just my pet peeve. Moving on. The impact that low-effort content can have on a creator is pretty obvious, and I don't think there's many people that would argue that Spechie's content from back in the day wasn't low-effort. It's not a good feeling to look back on your art after a few months, even if you put your heart and soul into it, and to have a backlog of low-effort, lazy content must hurt. Speggi herself noted that she didn't like the content she made as Spechie, and I believe that. I believe she knew that she could do better, and because of the combination of mental exhaustion, self-imposed deadlines, and general apathy, her work suffered massively, and it likely took a toll on her. But not to worry, your local idiot has a bit of advice. Just a simple suggestion. Not everything needs to be in the storytime animated format. I think Speggi knows this just fine now, but I'll give her the advice I would have given her when she was still Spechie. I felt as though if she wanted to make videos faster or without too many new visuals, there's less painful ways to do this than what she was doing. It would have been better to put some of her videos over a speed paint or let's play because her cynical tone and delivery always fit well with storytelling and commentary, so I think a blend of the two wouldn't have been out of place in her videos. Something along the line of Hopeless Peach's speed paints and chats or Ponder Sprocket's speed paint spliced in with narrator graphics could have been a good format to work with. You know, something like this. This video right here that you're currently listening to, with your ear holes. If Spechie just wanted to get thoughts off her chest and didn't want to spend a month drawing up new scenes and characters for it, I think this would be a good way of going about it. Also, I think this still applies now if she wants to get out a quick thought piece or smaller stories. Now, as far as the videos she's put out since Speggi's rise, there's very few to go off, so I won't make too many suggestions. I don't know what her content will look like a few more videos in, this is just based off her first 2 videos at the time of writing. In truth, she could still use some guidance and voices of reasons with her art and videos to help make them more cohesive. Like, where to use color and where not to use it so it doesn't stick out as unusual when compared to the rest of the video. This is just the sort of thing you need someone to call you up on and say, hey, maybe don't do it like this. Which is really hard for friends to do and even harder for you to take, but I guarantee it'll pay off in the long run. Just having people you know will offer guidance openly is a gift, even if you hate their damn guts when they do it. On a completely unrelated note, Thanks, Way, for no particular reason. I'll also say that the first video she made seems like a more personal thing for Speggy, so I'm not too worried about the visual quality consistency, and I give her points for clearly putting some elbow grease into the range of visuals. Also, honey, just a quick bit of advice. Delete the travel video or re-upload it with new graphics. I beg. You can do better than that. You should show off your abilities more than that video does, please. I feel it 100% vibe with the content of that video, but the visuals tank. Just putting it out there. I just think you can do better. Personal experience and Spechie. Alright, here's where the take gets spicy, but like, cold, because 80% of people had the same damn take as me. So like, weird, spicy, cold tea. I'm sure that'll sell wonderfully. Name it after me. So listen, my feelings on Spechie, not Speggy, but Spechie specifically, I hated Spechie. Strong wording, I know, and I'm using it predominantly as hyperbole. But let me expand on this. This gets a bit personal to my own experiences, so bear with me, kiddos. I didn't hate Spechie herself, exactly. Rather, I hated what she reminded me of. What she stood for, if you will. Namely, the worst parts of myself, especially from when I was a teenager, and without spilling my whole life experience to you, I was downright horrendous as a teenager. I was hostile, judgmental, totally unfriendly, lonely, and crippled with so much self-loathing and fear of others' opinions on me that I built up this whole-ass, aloof, bitter persona that I ended up keeping all through high school. And that's what I saw in Spechie.
I eventually ended up burning bridges with a few people I called pals because I was tired of being walked on. They may call me an egotistical bitch behind my back, but at least I'm doing something with my life instead of sucking dick on the blacktop.
I saw the way my own bitterness and anxiety manifested into spite, and my insecurity got twisted into a superiority complex that I absolutely did not buy into myself. It was like looking into an extraordinarily edgy mirror whenever I watched her videos like Cringe or My Art Teacher Hated Me, both rather infamous videos at this point. And as a quick aside, in case anyone gave a shit, Spechie was undeniably wrong in those videos, and there's tons of commentary YouTubers that picked them apart already. She was wrong, and everyone has already explained in detail as to why that is. We're not gonna beat that dead horse anymore, there's barely even a carcass left at this point. Moving on. For Spechie, I think she made the mistake of slipping into the I'm not like other girls mentality, but maybe on a grander scale. Think, I'm not like the other cringy teenagers in this case. In her efforts to feel secure in herself and not like every other stupid, vapid, empty-headed schoolboy and girl, she shone an incredibly unfavorable spotlight onto all those around her. And let me tell you, that's an incredibly lonely stage to be left standing on in the dark, on your own. Now, because I made this association between my past and the Spechie persona, when I finally got around to watching Speggy's The Truth video, it hit home really hard for me. It felt a bit like watching my own change as I left high school and the persona I built for it behind and moved into being a young adult over the last few years, all compacted down into a little YouTube video. It was actually sort of uncanny, and I'm not ashamed to admit I got a bit emotional while watching it. It was this lame mixture of pride for Speggy's growth and an old melancholy nostalgia when remembering the persona that I had been as a teenager. And, admittedly, guilt over how harshly I'd always thought of Spechie, not allowing her the same patience and time that I had needed to grow out of my own spiteful persona. It was a bit like an empathetic punch to the gut. I can't quite explain how wonderful it is to see Spechie pass and give rise to Speggy, and I'm more than willing to give her every chance to be a totally better version of herself. People grow and change, especially people as young as Speggy. This is her time to come into herself and see how much better life can be when you're not cramming yourself into the shape of a spiteful character. With all that said, her video is not flawless, and there are a few concerns I'd like to touch on, but I only want to touch on them as a word of warning to Speggy, and hopefully she can avoid some potential pitfalls in the future. Her take on BPD and my concerns. If I had a main critique of this video, it would be that her approach to BPD is pretty naive, and I won't lie, some of the way she spoke about it did rub me a bit wrong.
So I'm pretty happy that I finally know that it's not me, it's my personality disorder. In combination with me, obviously.
And it reminded me of her ill-fated depression video, which is quite infamous in and of itself. Again, commentary videos tore it to shreds, and I won't recap it here, but I will say it was an extraordinarily bad video despite what I think were good intentions behind it. I have seen some people claim that her BPD situation is the same as her depression claim from that video, but the key factor is that she was medically diagnosed with BPD, where in the other video she self-diagnosed herself with depression, which was likely her misunderstanding her actual condition and just slapping the label of depression over it. Admittedly, a really shitty decision on her part, don't get me wrong, but people claiming this is exactly the same as the depression video are either not listening to the words coming out of her mouth.
Borderline personality disorder, or BPD. I was recently diagnosed by my therapist with borderline personality disorder.
Or they are being purposely vindictive pricks. Either way, come off it. This is a stupid argument to make, and I won't have a bar of it today or any other day. However, from my understanding, this is all quite new for her. She'll have lots of time to expand her understanding in relationship to her own mental health, and I hope she is given the time she needs to come to grips with all the nuances of her own situation, and how to handle it from day to day. The best thing that Speggy can do for herself is talk to other people in the mental health sphere, both people who have experienced BPD or other mental illnesses firsthand, and mental health professionals to better understand her own situation and also the situation of others working through these problems. It can be easy to boil it all down to it's the personality disorder, not me, and there is some truth to that. But you're still responsible for the actions you carry out and any harm you may cause. From my experience, people will be understanding if you're upfront, honest, and apologetic when you need to be. People also tend to know when you're actually trying or just using mental health as an excuse, and goodwill runs out really quickly if they feel manipulated or used. It can be very tricky to learn and navigate, but it's well worth the effort to cultivate healthy relationships and a healthy self-image. No one is born understanding mental health. Everyone is an ignorant idiot by default, and we can only work up from there. So I'm not going to lambaste her for not being an expert on how to talk about or process BPD just yet, or falling into old mindsets and traps. We're working on benefit of the doubt, baby. Baby. I never say fucking baby. Conclusion and the death of Spechie. Now, will she have absolutely no setbacks or lapses into bad behaviors? Unlikely. Change is slow and growing up takes entirely too long, but so long as she keeps moving forward, she shouldn't be tied to Spechie. I don't know many people that are the same person that they were as a teenager or a fresh 20-year-old. Teenagers in particular sort of seriously suck, and it's only half their fault. Their brains are basically on fire at that age, and they're surrounded by a bunch of other children that also have their brains on fire. High school is hell, and we're all devils stoking the coals. People don't have to stay the same person that they were as a mini hell gremlin years ago. And to Speggy now. I first want to apologize for not being as charitable when thinking about you in the past and not giving you the same patience that I myself needed to grow into a better person. I hadn't fully shaken off my own version of a Spechie attitude, and my own regrets and fears pushed me to be harder on you in my mind. So for that, I'm sorry, and I genuinely hope you're able to grow into an even better person every day. You're gonna have massive fuck-ups and setbacks, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It's gonna be shit. And you won't have fully shaken all your old habits and thought patterns just yet, I'm pretty sure. But be kind to yourself, be as patient as you can muster, let people in, and if you have a setback, don't be ashamed of yourself. Just go on and try again. And I hope you grow into a wonderful person moving forward.
Bridget, that is my name. That's what I want to be addressed as. Spechie's dead, will never be coming back. Videos are gone because they're really bad. Like, let's be honest. And now I'm trying to make videos that don't suck. So, channel Speggy now. I don't know. Egg and Spechie. That's it. I didn't think of it beyond that.
Alright, boys and girls, we finished that video. That was kind of weird to make. Sorry about that. I had a moment, apparently. Anyway, this is the end of the video, and I do kind of have an announcement, as if I'm anyone to give an announcement. So, thanks for getting to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you know that after this, I'm going to be splitting my content, rare as it may be, between two channels. This one and my side channel that you can find here. This channel will still be used predominantly for animation and art content, as it was originally intended, but because I've also been branching out into gaming-focused videos and apparently fucking essays, I figured it might clutter this channel up a bit to have all those different types of content mixing together all the time. From now on, things like the Bioshock fan mockumentary and Gluskin essay video will be going on a second channel, along with any other game-related content I might make that isn't animation-focused. There's already a couple of gameplay videos on the channel, but it's more or less unused since I made it. I figure I might as well dust it off and better organize content between the two channels I have. One for game content and one for animation. Although I'm not entirely sure where things like miscellaneous personal videos or even short opinion pieces like this would need to go between them. they'll probably be evenly split between the channels depending on their content. Like the Spechy video would probably end up on the first channel because it's artist related, but I also know having opinion-based videos between silly animations might not appeal to people. I'm still figuring it out. Pray for me, lads. And of course, any suggestions are more than welcome. Anyway, have a great life, my guys. I'm gonna die in this fucking cupboard. There's spiders and scorpions and shit in here. I mean, there's probably spiders. At least spiders. Scorpions might be a bit out of season, but either way. Okay. I'm outie. Okay, we're out. I'm leaving.